Well, we got off to a pretty wild start at the start of the year. Many places are being hit with very extreme weather events, and I have a feeling there are more to come based on the weather charts that I'm tracking. It's been a very big eye opener for me personally. So, I live on the Gold Coast in the northern Gold Coast region, and on Christmas night, we'd sort of had a wonderful Christmas day and had sort of retired for the evening. And then in the sort of mid to late evening, we were hit with a very substantial storm, which has actually, in fact, been declared a tornado. A tornado sort of ripped through this whole area, right through Tambourine Mountain, Hope Island, Runaway Bay, all these very beautiful areas, and the damage was catastrophic. Literally thousands of power poles taken down, trees which were 60 plus year trees ripped from the roots, across roads, and it was really quite substantial for the energy providers to get the grid back up and running. And in fact, in Tambourine Mountain today, they're still operating on generators, and it's going to be quite some time before everything is repaired and brought back to normal. And we have more storms coming through over the next month or so, and a lot of heavy rainfall due, which creates land slippages and all those kind of catastrophic things that can happen. So it's been a huge eye-opener. And in the days after this event, so first and foremost, we all lost our power. We were without power for several days. There are people who are still without power, obviously still on generators. What really hit me was just how things can fall apart very quickly, and contingency plans weren't in place. And I live in a place like Sanctuary Cove, which is a very pristine resort type area, and there really weren't a lot of plans. A lot of the staff were off on holidays. There were no kind of central meeting places set up. No one had really envisaged some sort of a wide-scale emergency. So power went out, which meant all the petrol stations went out. So although some people did have generators, you had to travel a very significant distance to get fuel. And of course, the roads were covered in power poles, trees, debris, and more importantly, power lines. Power lines down everywhere. Thousands and thousands of kilometres, of power lines down, and they've just been snapped, literally. And so it became very dangerous to travel, very dangerous to go and get fuel, and, generators became very much in short supply. So very quickly you had an issue. The next issue that really sort of, jumps out at me is you go to your local IGA to try and get some emergency supplies, whether that be ice-sphere esky, batteries, all those kind of things. They won't take, they can't do FPOS, okay? So they're operating in a very similar scenario. So, so everywhere you went, you had to have cash to be able to sort of make good. And, although this wasn't for an extended period of time, there's no doubt that if this went on for 1 to 2 or 3 weeks, things would have got very hairy very quickly. It really showed how important it is to have your neighbours and to have your game plan. Now, I had been prepping, I thought, for many years. I had solar panels, I had batteries, etc. But when you have a storm, there's no sunshine, very slow to charge things via solar. And so you have this kind of scenario where a lot of your systems don't necessarily work. The third thing that really hit me was we had very limited phone and internet coverage. So you've got the combination of power out, internet out, can't get fuel. Everything starts to grind to a halt. And of course, then the messaging, the communication becomes a real issue. So for me, I've been talking for many years about cyber security events. From my perspective, I've been through a pre-run, a test run for what may be coming. The World Economic Forum has spoken many times about a pandemic of cyber security events, potentially affecting the energy grids. So we're starting to see, in my opinion, some of the things that may be coming our way in the year or years ahead. And it really does show that you do have to have preparation plans. It's not a stupid thing to have a plan if you never have to activate it, all well and good, but you do have to think about things like your essentials, your power, your communication, your water. In this instance, the water wasn't such a big issue, but it certainly could have been. The pool filters stopped working, can't get into the pools turn green within a week. So there was all those kind of issues starting to creep in, and we are so reliant on those core services. I think Energex in Queensland has done a magnificent job of getting people back online. They are literally rebuilding the grid in several places, and it was just on a scale that was unprecedented. I hope we don't see something like this again. It's going to take quite a long time to recover, and businesses, of course, have been severely damaged. But a bit of a wake-up call for me personally, just seeing firsthand what it was like to experience no power, no internet, no fuel, limited access to the normal, facilities of life, and how quickly people's demeanour and attitudes could change in very, very trying circumstances. We were very fortunate. We have a wonderful community here, and everyone pulled in together and offered to share generators and all those kind of things. But certainly for the future, some eye-opening lessons to be learnt from the storm on Christmas night 2024 on the Gold Coast.